to come on this. We're going to spend the next kind of 25 minutes or so just explaining a little bit more about a tax-back opportunity through a company called Kinsale Spirit. I'm joined today by Colin Ross, who's the MD of Kinsale Spirit. I've known Colin for many years now at this stage. Colin has a very, I suppose, extensive background, and I'm sure he can introduce himself very well. We're just going to start very briefly by launching a quick poll, just something to get you thinking. I've just put it up on the screen there. Hopefully you can see it. Just asking a question as to if you had 10,000 to invest, what would you invest in? So if you wouldn't mind, please do give your answer, and we'll make reference to it at the end of the webinar. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Nick Sherrill-Lambus. I am the Managing Director of Alpha Wealth. Alpha Wealth is a financial services company. We're based in Cork primarily. We have a small presence in Dublin. There's 6 advisors in the company. I'd like to suggest that we're very progressive. We provide independent financial advice to individuals. And I suppose we don't charge specifically for the advice that we give clients. And I'd like people to see us as a low-cost provider. The main areas that we tend to advise on are pensions, tax planning and tax-backed schemes in reference to the likes of today and getting people's money working harder for them. And then the third and final area of insurances, including all forms of insurance, from health insurance, where we don't sell, but we advise on, to things like mortgage protection, car insurance, and so on. So the focus of today is based on a scheme that some of you may be familiar with, and I know quite a few of you may have invested already through the EAAS scheme and specifically through Kinsale Spirit. But for those of you that haven't, I just wanted to talk to you about an opportunity. And a lot of people say to me, Nick, well, I haven't heard of this. And all I say is that ignorance is not bliss here. All of you would have heard of a pension. And all I want you to do is think today about this as a modified form of a pension, which has advantages over a pension scheme, primarily the fact that it's a 4-year scheme. So, for many of you, a pension may run for 10, 15, 20 plus years. The benefit of this tax scheme is that you only have to wait 4 years to fully avail of the benefit. It's a revenue scheme. As I said, you can Google EIIS and you'll see it on the revenue site. So this is totally bona fide. And the key message I want to give you is that Pascal Donoghue stood up in the Dáil in November 2019 in the budget and really breathed life into the scheme that had been in existence for about 8 years previous, but he really put it on the map. And the opportunity really, which I'm going to talk to you very briefly about, and Colin's going to go into more detail with you, and sorry, I just need to go back one slide, is that you need 2 things to avail of this scheme. Number 1 is to have at least 5,000 euros in the bank in cash, which you may or may not have as of today. But this is our role as financial advisors to help you get there. And for those of you that may not get there this year, the opportunity will present itself next year and hopefully through Kinsale Spirit. The second thing is that you need to be a high rate taxpayer, which I presume a vast majority of you in this call are on. And if you're not, then you may have a partner or spouse that may be a high rate taxpayer. And typically your earnings from all income, not just earned income, so that includes rental income, just need to be in excess of 38,000 a year, typically to trigger a high rate of tax. So the quick example I'm going to give you, and I will pass on to Colin shortly, is that if you say have 10,000 euros in the bank, so it could be in a nil interest bearing deposit account, you may be able to generate that money from cash or indeed a bonus that you may be due later in the year, and you put it into this revenue approved scheme through Kinsale Spirit, and Colin's going to talk to you about why you should invest in his company. The Irish government will reward you by giving you back 4,000 euros next year. And as I said, the minimum is 5K, but I'm using an example of 10 to make it a bit more meaningful and for the purposes of illustration. How that works is that you get your 4,000 back from revenue next year, and at the end of the 4-year period, so today is May 2021, in May, June 2022, you'd be looking to get that 10,000 euros back with a 3,000 euros profit, which is the cap on this return that Kinsale Spirit are offering to give you, based on Kinsale Spirit's returns being 30% higher than they are now. Now, 30% is a very generous return. The average in the industry is broadly 15 to 20%, and Colin has kindly agreed to increase that cap for EIIS investors in 2021. So if you think about the mechanics of this, you have invested a net amount of 6,000 euros. That's the 10 less the 4 that you're going to get next year from the revenue. And you will get a return of 13,000 back 4 years from now. Because of the tax on the 3,000 euros, which is a generous form of tax, which is capital gains tax, because of the fact that you have an annual allowance that you may or may not be aware of, it is likely that you're going to receive a net return of 12,430 euros. We can help you with the tax treatment of this. It's very simple. That's a double your money return. And that's the reason why I want you to listen to Colin for the next 15 to 20 minutes. So without further ado, I'd like you to introduce you to Colin Ross. As I said, Colin, I've known for many years. He can introduce himself very well. And he's someone that I would feel very, very strongly about in terms of dealing with. And he's certainly looked after clients of mine very well over the last number of years. Can you hear me, Colin? Are you okay to talk?
Yes, hi Nick. I'm just going to say hello on video, and now I'm going to shut off my video just to keep the connection stable. So you know what I look like, and that piece is over now. Just to say at the outset, we have been working with Alpha Wealth now for about 2 years on the EIS scheme, and I'd like to thank them, which we have done before, for their work on it on our behalf. They've put a great customer-facing aspect on it, so it's worked very well for both of us, I think, and I suppose it gives them confidence that we are delivering on the things we said we would do with the money. So we can go into that in a little bit of detail, but just to give you some background, anybody who is interested in the scheme and applies through Alpha Wealth will get this prospectus anyway. So there's no need to dwell on it too long. You can have a copy of it. But behind the company are three partners. We have myself, you have Tom O'Riordan and Ernest Cantillon. Tom and Ernest are both entrepreneurs, publicans in Cork City, probably known to you. And, you know, they started the business back in early 2016, 2017, developed the gin, got it going, and then we had some informal chats, and they were very, very keen on exports, raising more money, etc., things I had experience in. So they came and talked to me, and then we decided to form an equal partnership between the three of us to drive the business forward. And that has propelled us onto a new level, I suppose. We've raised money through EIIS and other sources, and now we're exporting our brands all over the world. So that's the who are we bit. There's a little bio in the pack that you can have a look at when you get it. So what we've done with regards to business model is, I suppose it's not unique, but it is slightly unusual, but has certainly hit the mark with a lot of investors and customers. So while we're building our own distillery, we have also decided to look at the commercial reality of brands that are made for us by third parties. So we work very closely with West Cork Distillers and Great Northern Distillery. And what that has allowed us to do is assess the commercial reality of the brands, get the route to market moving. So we have our pipeline. So now, as we're building our distillery at the moment in Kinsale, when we eventually launch our own products, we will be able to put them through the same pipeline without any additional cost, really. So at the moment, the stable consists of those brands. So you've got, if you want to go back there one, please. You've got, back one slide, please. You've got Kinsale Gin, which is available in Ireland, Europe, and China. You have Summer Cove Kinsale Gin, which is available in the United States at the moment only. You have Red Earl Irish whiskey, which is a blended Irish whiskey, triple casked, matured in Rioja, which is available globally and soon to be launched by the end of the summer. We have Spanish Earl, which is a single malt Irish whiskey, and Great Earl is a single grain Irish whiskey. Our whiskies are non-age statement, but they are a minimum of 4 years old. So they have a lovely balance, lovely maturity. They're all triple casked. They all feature characters from the Battle of Kinsale, which is the Battle of Kinsale series, is the name for the series of 3 whiskies. So it evokes the history of the heroic Irish struggle, all of that. A lot of the export countries love all the story. They love the provenance. And then to cement all that, we're building a distillery at the moment in Kinsale, which is going to make us also producers. We have a lot of NPD going on. We have another 2 brands at least to launch in the States before the end of the year, another 2 whiskies. It's still early days on the development, but we're getting there. We'll also be launching things like miniatures, miniature gift packs. We work very closely with a company called Aaron Hampers, and they look after our fulfillment for also involved in our EIS, but they look after our fulfillment for hampers. So we have a lot of gifting options there as well, online through our website, which is being redeveloped at the moment. So there's a lot of things happening on the brand front. And you know, it's very exciting times. So the why are we doing all this? I suppose obviously we want to grow the value of the business. Obviously we want to grow our brands, but we like the business. We know a lot about the business, but I suppose it's pushing at an open door a little bit. So the US whiskey market is absolutely huge. It accounts for basically half of all Irish whiskey volumes in the world. It's growing rapidly. Irish whiskey is the fastest growing brown spirit in the world at the moment. COVID thankfully didn't have an effect really, because as we know from the Irish example, a lot of people simply moved their consumption from on to off trade. Well, a lot of people are very much looking forward to the on trade coming back. Online and off have absolutely blossomed. We're very active, for example, in the US online. So it is an area of huge growth. It reduces costs to some extent as well, but the on-trade traditionally would have been seen as the brand builder. So it is important, and it will still be important. And people are very keen to get back into the whole atmosphere and the fun and the crack and all that sort of stuff. So it's very important to us. But on an export front, Irish whiskey is growing. Like, it's huge in Russia, the Ukraine, South Africa. You know, it's growing rapidly in Asia. China is a very key strategic market where we're involved as well. And on top of that, you have the gin craze, which people sort of 4 and 5 years ago were writing off as a bit of a fad. Well, the good news is it's not, and it's still there, and it's still growing. Even in Ireland, even in the UK, which was the traditional gin market, we'll say of all time, where the product was, where the thing was invented. UK has nearly trebled in the last 20 years in terms of gin consumption. So it is still growing. The US is only discovering gin. Ryan Reynolds is helping with aviation gin. And the interest in our gin in the US is, you know, it's very interesting and exciting, and it's more than we expected. Even though we have plenty of it out there in warehouses and so on, but it's really refreshing to see that trend is continuing around the planet. And usually trends come from the US back to Europe. This time it's going the other way, which is nice to see also. I mentioned online, we have added a couple of new partners as well, likes of Cask Cartel, which are based out of Florida. They're very proactive. And the thing about online is, okay, it's a route to market. You're selling product through online, but it's also a fabulous advertising medium, because all of these online sellers, as you see on your Facebook or your Instagram or your Twitter, they're all pumping their message out through social media. And while we've heard the negative things about social media, and no doubt it needs to be managed, it is a great low-cost avenue to get at your consumers. So we recently did a €200, we'll call it pump online of our brands around a specific online distributors general catchment area. So we picked Cascartel in Florida, and we picked the 6 states around Florida and Florida itself, and we had 100,000 consumers reached with €200. Like, that's phenomenal, and it's translating into sales. They're on their 6th order, so it does make a difference. It does actually result in sales and profitable sales, because if you divide that out over 6 orders, €200 is our marketing spend. Okay, we had to create some online content, but we're doing that anyway, and that's global content. The beauty of having these brands across the world means you can create an ad. Okay, it's in English, you can translate it if you need to into Chinese or whatever, and then you can pump it out globally. So the cost of production is tiny. It's very different to using traditional media, which also still has a place, but we're still not at the stage of advertising on TV or radio. But we do use the papers like the Sunday Business Post and so on. And there's the proof. Online is growing, it's growing rapidly. We need to be careful that traditional retail doesn't get neglected, because obviously if you want expert opinion, or, you know, we have some great partners like Bradley's in Cork, like 1601 in Kinsale, and loads of other Super Value are really active. But when you go to those places and you ask about the product, you can get a little bit of product knowledge from them and that personal touch. So it's very important that bricks and mortar stores are also selling our product, but you have to be aware of the trends and what's happening, and we're on it. So how are we doing all this? So what we've done basically is we've looked at the key markets for us, and we're tackling them, you know, in a strategic manner. We're very keen on the USA. We're very keen on Ireland. We're very active in China. We have brand development going on there. The rest of Asia, we have brand development going on. We're looking for solutions for Germany. We are in talks with a distributor in Russia. We were very active in duty free up until I won't mention the word, but the C word started. I'm trying to keep everything positive here. So obviously duty free and all that has been constrained a little bit, but we have specific products being launched for that channel as well. Some kind of clever takes on our products, but, you know, gift packs and so on, because we, even in Arienta alone, Dublin and Cork, the amount of product that can go through that channel in a week is quite impressive, because you know it yourself, you're running through the airport, you forgot to get a gift for somebody you're staying with in the States, or a relative or whatever, you grab a bottle often, or, you know, whatever, salmon or whatever you can bring. You can't bring things like that to the United States. So liquor is always a good option, and people do, and they do a lot. So this is where we are. There is a little slide on our highlights as well in here, but basically we're beating our budgets, and this is just a simple illustration to show what we plan to do over the next 4 to 5 years. So we're planning on sales of about 4 million, that'd be nice, 4 million euro, and grow the value of the company considerably over the next few years. Sales and profit obviously have an exponential effect on company valuations. I mean, you can see it all the time, and look, it'd be great to have a fairy tale like aviation gin, you know, or George Clooney's tequila. But I mean, you have big companies looking at differentiating themselves through acquisition of small brands, and it's certainly something that, you know, we need to keep our eye on. But essentially the key job for us at the moment is to keep on the path, to keep growing the brands, to do it in a financially prudent manner, and see where it takes us over the next 4 to 5 years. But obviously profitability is key, and towards the end of next year we should start to break into that profitable realm. We have to invest in the brands now. So this is a little bit about where we are, or what we've achieved up to 2020. We had a fantastic win of awards, which you see on the right there. Recently a double gold for both Gin and Red Earl in the European Spirits Awards. We've won numerous awards, World Gin Awards, Bartender Spirits Awards, London Spirit Competition, and so on. But in terms of 2020 results, I'm pleased to say we beat our sales budget by 12%, with sales up 78%, and we beat profitability targets by 29%. So the signs are good. This year will be a very expensive year for us because we're expanding dramatically in the US. In the last 6 months, we have 7 states in distribution. We have another 3 or 4 to come. So it's very important that we have the funding to be able to deliver on that. So at the moment, we're in New York, Rhode Island, California, Texas, Florida. If you want to go back there, sorry, please. Texas, Florida, Colorado, and South Carolina. We have a market coordinator appointed for Asia. We have business development and process, like I said earlier. We have more whiskies planned. We have new hampers, 50 mils, and the online availability I already spoke about. So there's a lot of things happening, but a lot of jobs being marked off. So the next slide, please. What are we going to raise in total, and how are we going to spend it? So just briefly, you can look at this in more detail when you get the presentation. We need money for working capital, for marketing, for paying salespeople, which, you know, they're expensive commodities, but there is a phase where you invest enough in that area, it breaks into profitability. So roughly 2 million of our fundraise in total will be devoted to that. Inventory build is very important. So one of the first things distributors ask when you sign them up, and one of the last things you want to do is run out of product. So we have built inventory now of our whiskies of well over 100,000 bottles. And we have to keep adding to that, because if we get a spike, like for example, we're courting a major player in Australia at the moment, their annual order for whiskey would be 30,000 bottles. And that's one customer. So you need to be ready for that as well. You can't build too much stock and just have it all sitting around, but you certainly need to be aware of it. And we also need to spend a considerable amount of money over time in Kinsale, building the distillery, eventually maybe a visitor center, and other appropriate and complementary businesses that we're talking about also. So with that, I'll hand back to Nick, and I'm sure there'll be questions or whatever which we can deal with by email or however Nick wants to shoot them over to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. I'll just, maybe for those that joined a little bit after the start, to repeat what I said earlier, which is that really today is about an opportunity for people to invest in Kinsale Spirit, but in a way that they get tax relief from the government of the 40%, and also the generous, I suppose, return that Colin is offering, which is 30% on the investor's capital. So whilst I have absolute faith in Colin and Kinsale Spirit in driving these revenues and the profitability of the company, the key message for investors is that once they get up to 30%, the full return is made. Everything thereafter is obviously superfluous. So from that perspective, the investor has the main, I suppose, security in Kinsale Spirit. It's a really fantastic opportunity. As I said, we want to open the floor now to questions. If anyone would like to ask any questions, please do feel free to do so. You can unmute. I should have said earlier that you can send a question via the chat also. And myself and David Looney, who is the other financial advisor who's also on the call, will be sending out the presentation deck that Colin's kindly given. We're happy to answer any questions on a one-to-one. Just to mention, the fee and the cost of this is a once-off 3% fee. So for an investor who puts in 10,000, it will cost €300. Colin's kindly agreed to reduce that down to 2% for those who invest before the end of May. Now, I appreciate it gives you only 2 or 3 weeks to invest, but it's an opportunity for people who are in a position to make a decision. As Colin says, they have very ambitious growth plans, and Kinsale Spirit need to continue to generate more cash. That doesn't mean that the scheme will end at the end of May. There will still be the opportunity into the summer months as well. So I'd like to maybe thank you again for your time today. Would anyone like to ask any question? please, as I said, feel free to unmute and to do so. And I'm conscious that there are people who are on the